Hello and welcome to the Northumbria Healthcare Podcast. My name is Chris McGee and with me today I have the Whitley Warriors head coach, Tony Hand MBE. Tony is a veritable legend of the sport of ice hockey, racking up well in excess of 4,000 points across a long and illustrious career. He's also the first British player to be drafted by an NHL team and is an inductee of the IIHF Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Chris.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
I guess the best place to start would be at the beginning. What was it about the sport of ice hockey that captivated the imagination?
I was about 10-year-old. We used to kind of go to Murrayfield Ice Rink up in Edinburgh there. We used to sort of walk a couple of hours to get there because there wasn't the same sort of transport to get like buses. So we had a great time. Most of the best part of the day was actually walking to the ice rink with your mates and then coming back home late at night after it with your mates. And it's a great time. I loved it.
Did it play a big role in your life growing up then, ice hockey?
Oh yes, definitely. I think sport is a major factor in Britain. Not just as you say, not just for the fitness side of the stuff, but obviously we're talking about mental health side of stuff. The feeling of winning, or the feeling of being around your teammates, or the feeling of just having somewhere to go to play a sport and enjoy it was obviously a kind of great part of my life and something I'll cherish forever. So
you quite quickly became known as a good ice hockey player, and as we alluded to in the opening to this, you've had a lot of highs in your career. You've done a lot of big things. You've achieved a lot and set records. What would you say are some of the highest highs of your career?
The highest for myself is basically was receiving the MBE from the Queen, late Queen Elizabeth. That was fantastic. It wasn't just about me; it was about all my players and coaches who have played along beside, and for your family who've obviously supported you through the years. And then on a playing side, I was fortunate enough to get one game in the NHL. It was an exhibition match in Edmonton against the Olympic Canadian national team, which was a highlight. And then just winning competitions here. Again, with your club teams, I've won them with Murrayfield, Manchester, Sheffield, and hopefully again we'll win something here at Whitley Bay.
You mentioned there about playing in the NHL. How was it back then to sort of move continent, and how did that feel?
It was difficult for me at the start because I was always loved being in Edinburgh, and I was young and obviously brought up there, and you were comfortable there. And I didn't really know much about the NHL because there wasn't the internet, the information we got now, and there wasn't the iPhones or emails or even the television coverage of what you could get now. They could go online and check somewhere. I didn't have YouTube, so there's so many things that when you were going there, you're unknown. Whilst now, I think you're basically, you know everything before you'd even left wherever you're leaving from. You know everything about the team. You can research them. You can obviously pick up the phone and FaceTime anybody at any time. So I think back then it was a little bit difficult. It's not an excuse, but I think it's a lot easier now for players to get in touch back home. And I think that was probably the biggest thing for me, was making sure I was still in touch with my family and friends back home.
How did you cope with that sort of, I guess, loneliness at times?
It was difficult at times because you're across there and your expectations are high, and I think sometimes when you're unsure of what's going on, because I wasn't brought up in North America, you don't really, you were just sort of, again, every day you're like, oh, what's happening today? You didn't have a sort of, like I say, a clear path of what you could see was happening. And obviously that's just kind of retrospectively, yeah, you know now, but when you're younger, you don't know. But it was tough because it was more, your friends weren't there, your family weren't there, and even though the people across there were fantastic, but in Edmonton they were brilliant. But in the same token, though, you're still only 18, 19-year-old, and you're 6,000 miles away, and you're like, what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke as well about the highs of your career earlier, the MBE, the championships, the titles. Conversely, what were some of the lower moments that people might not have seen?
Well, there's lower moments when you think, right, like, going back a number of years ago when I was still playing, you're thinking, like, is this the end of my career? My points tally was going down. I wasn't scoring as much, and I wasn't on the top line. And then I was like, I think there's an era at the time. And then I thought, like, is this going to be the end? I'll have to start moving down divisions to make sure, because I loved playing and I wanted to keep playing as long as I could. So that was a low point. But I managed to say, like, okay, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to get to the gym. I'm going to get fitter. So I tried everything I could to sort of stay at that level. But that was one of the low points. The other low points is basically when you go into finals and you're getting beat. And that's as much as people who are involved in sport. Like, I know fans, they take it to heart a lot of times, but I can assure you, players take it to heart, like, big time, if they're losing finals and not being successful. And because at the end of the day, that's what we're in it for, to try and win. So I've had lots of great amount of highs, but I've obviously had some lows as well.
As someone who's clearly as fiercely competitive as you are, you said the players feel it the most when you lose those titles, when you lose those games, those big games. What do you do to sort of protect your mental health and make sure you come out the other side of that?
Well, it's important. What I used to, just personally, I used to learn a long time ago, is not to get too high when you win and then too low when you lose. But when you're younger, especially when you're younger, and I know at different age groups, when you're younger, you take everything to heart. And we used to make sure that we were, as a team, if regardless of won or lost, we stuck together as a team. We still hung out together. We still can go out socialising together. We would still play golf together. Because at the end of the day, it is a sport. And we should realise that there is, regardless, there's going to be lows, there's going to be highs come around the corner. So we always look, and being obviously optimistic that things will turn around. But we're just trying to stay positive. But as I say, I've tried not to get too down when we win, when we lose, and too high when we win.
You said there about sticking together as a team, going out and socialising, and that being really important for you to make sure you overcome those darker moments. Ice hockey is seen from a lot of people as a very masculine and macho sport. It can be aggressive out there. It can be very physical. Is there a stigma between the players about talking about things like your mental health and your emotions and how you feel?
I find it more and more now. I think a long time ago, I think players really used to sort of retract when you asked them, hey, okay? But I think nowadays, with the more it's coming out about the mental health, players are opening up, they are speaking to you. I make a policy with all the players when coming here. If anyone needs to speak to me at any time, they can pick the phone up if they want to speak to me in private, or they just sit in the room. And I think it's important for the players to be able to if it's not me, it's the assistant coach or the captains. But it's important to be able to listen, and we'll do as much as we can to help any player who's maybe, if they feel they're maybe underperforming, or maybe even if it's not even ice hockey, if it's something off ice, again, we will do our best to try and help them as much as we can as a club.
Mm-hmm. So that segues quite nicely. Earlier this year in April, you were appointed as head coach of the Whitley Warriors. It's been over 6 months now. How have you found it? How's it been?
So go back. It's been great so far with the sponsors. The players have been great. I think they've maybe realise there's a lot of hard work ahead of them, but I think they're prepared for it. But it's a journey. It's not going to, it might not. We knew this season was going to be tough, and we've had a couple of bad results. But we don't get too down. What we do is we make sure we're better next week, and we make sure, again, we're building a team for the future. We've got a lot of younger guys, and obviously we lost a lot of few good players last year just through either retirement or going back to North America. So, but I can see there's been a huge improvement, and that's what, as a coach or a manager, you're always looking for improvement as much as you can, and I can see that. But I just say it will take a little bit of time.
As the team, it's maybe in a bit of a transitional period where you're rebuilding and you bring in a newer group of players together. How do you manage that mentality, especially when you've got new faces with older guys? And
it's basically just through experience. when you come into a club, your personalities, they start coming out. They don't come out right away, but we've got kind of a few good characters in here, and when things are kind of getting a bit too tight, and maybe we're not winning as kind of, and to be honest, we've done pretty decent. I mean, it's not like we've won quite a few games, but I'm always not just looking at the result. I'm looking at the performance. But we've got a few characters in the team who they'll have a laugh and they'll laugh at each other. And I think it's important sometimes is to be able to laugh when the adversity or things aren't going right, because players, you don't want players coming in and thinking, oh, okay, this is like a melting pot. This is just like this is not for me. So we try, as a coach, I try and take the pressure off them as much as I can. But in the same token, though, they still have to be responsible for how they're playing and how they're looking after themselves off ice and stuff like that. So we try, you just say, it's helping as much as we can. But not putting too much pressure on them. But in the same token, we want them to win. If you're going to be successful, there has to be a little bit element of pressure, because that's what comes with winning sometimes.
When you've got a big group team of players, how do you notice when maybe someone isn't maybe feeling very well? What do you look for to pick out to identify where someone might need that, that arm round them?
Yes, basically, just sometimes body language is key. You can walk through the dressing room and they won't make eye contact with some of the other players or myself or our assistant coach. They can be quiet. Sometimes you sit in the dressing room and normally you say, hey, he's normally guys, one of the guys cracking jokes or having a laugh, and they're sitting there and you can just see they're not really wanting to look around. And I think eye contact is one of the biggest things for me. Is a personal thing as a coach. Again, if players are not can speak to, and basically actually, look, don't come near me. Not to me personally, but just to any of the players. So if I see that, we'll kind of pull them out. We'll ask them, is everything okay? Is there any problems? Anything we can help you with as a club or as a coach, or if it's off ice, if we can help you with that. Also, we'll do our best to try and accommodate you and help you as many ways we can.
Mm-hmm. As your job is essentially people management, what advice would you give other people to do to help, maybe their colleagues at work, their friends, their family, if they think that they might be struggling?
I think it's sometimes when I take over a team or I'll make an effort to make sure I go around everybody, ask them how their day's been, and I might thinking, why are you asking me this? Like, can I ask them what they do for a living? Ask them what they've done for school, what do they do today? And I think it's important sometimes that players or coaches they maybe just coach the team. And they don't realise. I think if you can sort of build a bridge with somebody just by asking them, how's your day been? Is everything okay? And it shows you there's an interest there. It's not just about ice hockey, it's about an interest in you as a person. I hope does that make sense to what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense. But I think if you find that if someone is in a situation that they're not making eye contact and they're quiet and they're not wanting to sort of communicate with anybody, I think it's important to is to reach out to them and ask them, look, is there anything we can do to help you? Is there anything, can you want to go and have a chat, go and have a coffee, have a beer? Just spend 5-10 minutes with them, and it's amazing how much difference that makes. And as I say, as a coach, I try as much as possible to go around everybody in the team. Not every practice or every game, but ask them questions they must be asking as a coach, saying, what are they asking that for? But it's basically just to create a bridge and open up a channel of communication with the player. So it's not just about ice hockey, it's not just about the sport, it's about you as a person.
In regards to the world of ice hockey and how mental health is dealt with within the sport, you've been around the sport for quite a while now in different roles and in different places. How have you seen the attitudes towards the stigma of mental health change? I mean, especially with men's mental health.
I think I'm pretty sure over the last number of years, it's definitely starting to come out. I think before there was lid put on it, and if men talked about it, it was like, oh my God, this is like what you guys. He's something wrong with this guy. He needs serious help. But I think it's nowadays. I think people are a lot more open to if men, no matter what age, or if they're professional hockey players, could be the biggest, toughest guy in our team. But they've now starting to sort of open up, which is great to see if they have any issues, because when you look at some people, you don't know just by looking at them if they've got it. Obviously, we talked earlier on about getting their body language and eye contact, but I think now with the more it's coming out with the social media and all the great good work you guys are doing and the NHS is doing, that is bringing it out to a forefront, which I think can only be great for the future for anyone who does need to arm put around them, or just spend 5-10 minutes having a coffee with them.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Tony.
No, thanks for having me, Chris. Thank you. Cheers, mate. Thank you.